Hello there. I hope that the questions weren't too taxing. I hope that you managed to think carefully, not just about structure, but also about what do those messages mean. So let's get stuck into it. Okay, so for question number 1, it was you to write the report, and an active verb would be you wrote the report. The passive voice would be the report was written. Now, it's difficult to apply a context here, so if it's difficult to apply a context, then generally it's a better idea to just prefer the active voice. And certainly it comes across as being a lot more natural. So you wrote the report is a lot more natural to the report was written. In the same way as I ate breakfast is a lot more natural than breakfast was eaten. There are just some things which just sound better in the active voice than in the passive voice. The secretary to not schedule the meeting. Now, when I've given you these negative verb structures like to not schedule, and this is where we have to start thinking about what would be a better form of communication, because here something wasn't scheduled, it sounds like there's a problem. If there's a problem, that means there's a slightly negative context. What would be the best message if I had to communicate this? Now, the active voice would be, let me just move myself out of the way so you can, there we go. The secretary did not schedule a meeting. Factual, straight to the point. Maybe it's okay to blame the secretary. There's not going to be an issue. Maybe we want to be apologetic and we just want to be honest. The secretary didn't schedule a meeting. Sorry. Is it possible to meet now? Or you've got the passive voice. The meeting wasn't scheduled, in which you could be perhaps a little bit more defensive. You could say the meeting wasn't scheduled, so I didn't know about the meeting. That's why I didn't go. Or something along those lines. So you can see that you're kind of saying, you could understand this as saying sorry in two different ways. One is a little bit more kind of, it was me or it was her, but there is a problem. And the second one, the passive voice, a little bit more defensive. So then you would have to think about the context, which would be more appropriate in your particular context. For number 3, to not confirm the hotel reservation. So once again, we've got this whole idea that something didn't happen, it was meant to happen, could be a problem. Hotel reservations could mean that people would have to pay for more hotels or general kind of problematic issues. The active voice would be, I did not confirm the hotel reservation. The hotel reservation was not confirmed. So this is similar to the previous discussion that we had to look at. You could argue that the passive is a little bit more defensive, or it could be that it was your fault and you just want to distance yourself from that as much as you can. But whenever you're using distance as a reason for using the passive, you have to understand and anticipate that the person who's reading that will probably want to know why and who. Those are the when something goes wrong, these are the general 2 questions that people want to know. Why did it go wrong? Whose fault was it? So that's also something to take into account. Okay, for number 4, the BD team, business development team, to prepare the manager's presentation. So let's have a look at what possible options we have here. Active voice. The business development team is preparing the manager's presentation. So continuous verb we've got going on here, suggesting something's happening now. So there's a clear reason for using the active voice here and identifying people. It's being done, someone's doing it, I want you to know there's action, there's urgency, we're working on it now, and there's an implied message that something will be ready soon. And then we've got perhaps a slightly more distanced response, and this might be used when there's a couple of reasons for using this. First of all, you don't know who's doing it, which is fair enough. You might not know who's doing it. Secondly, it might not be being done, but you want to suggest that it is being done. So that's a better message for the person to hear or to read. So it is being prepared. Don't worry, everything's okay. So you've got a couple of different contexts there and different messages, which are different nuances, which are created by the active and the passive voice. The company to pay the invoice. The company did pay the invoice, as opposed to the invoice was paid. So here, the active voice with the use of did is an emphatic sentence. With lots of emphasis, focusing on the action that was completed and who did it. The company did pay the invoice. We could say the company paid the invoice, of course, but I want to use did pay because I want to create that emphasis, which is wholly lacking from the invoice was paid, which is very neutral, fact-based. So there might be a case where there's pressure, there's, I don't want to say a negative environment, but there's that kind of pressure, excited environment. Things have got to be done. Perhaps things are on the edge. So you want to use emphatic structures. The company did pay the invoice. That's okay. Let's move on. So two different nuances once more. And then lastly, investigators to examine the evidence. Investigators are examining the evidence, so once again, continuous voice, something happening now. There's a process going on. So the continuous is communicating a message, the active is telling us what the investigators are doing and what they're working with. So the whole picture is being presented. Then we've got the evidence is being examined, which is given the context. So there's investigators, or rather in the passive, we've got evidence and it's being examined. It tells you that there's some kind of possible criminal investigation, maybe the police are involved, someone is looking at evidence. So using the passive voice here lends itself to some secrecy, things, perhaps confidential information, privileged information, something that perhaps is a little bit more secret, as opposed to investigators are examining the evidence, which is, of course, out there, up front, and it's not hiding anything. So once again, we've got the two contexts, and these are two messages which are both applicable, which both could be appropriate given the appropriate context.